Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is the cross of Apple Computer with Silver Spot, provided by netdania.com. You can click on the link below. This is actually the weekly chart, and before I get to the other charts here, I just wanted to play you my video from April 5th of 2012 and explain the technical reasons why I made that call. So let's play a little bit of that. So the third point is that clearly this is a parabolic blow off in the price of Apple Computer. This type of formation is what they were saying silver was, and obviously is no longer, but this is something that presages a crash. We're now getting to the point where we're reaching infinite price in zero time. In other words, the price is going straight up. That will always result in a catastrophic collapse. So at some point, Apple Computer is due for a catastrophic crash. Probably. So that's the analysis from April of last year. Now again, that was not fundamental analysis. I'm sure there's a lot of fundamental analysis that could have been done. I believe Reggie Middleton did also something like that. I don't remember if it was before or after I did that video. You can research that. But so we did have quite the move down in Apple today. We got below that key line of support at 500, and you can see we significantly dropped below that. And we're going to continue to drop. Of course, the next support line's down around here at 425. There's another one at 360 or so. Another one down here at about 275. Ultimately, another one down at 203. I think probably in the end, if you look at what the company does and what companies in the past have done that, and these are good companies. These are not fake companies. These are good companies with good products. But for example, if you look at Microsoft on the long term, you can see once they corrected from that major move, then they had a move down of we'll say 60 down to 15. So they moved down about 75% and then stabilized a little bit below 50%. So that's what we're looking at with Apple. The carnage will continue. Ultimately, I think that the entire stock market will follow along with it. Now over to the silver price, we touched that 31.50 mark. Didn't get through it, but touched it. It's a fairly key level here because, as I pointed out in the last few videos, I was looking for a snapback rally to correct the price that we had at the end of December. I consider to be just end of the year tape painting by the powers that be, just to bring the percentage gains down in silver. So we're back down to that, or back up to that level we were before the final takedown occurred. We've still got quite a bit of upside to go to get through the rest of this technically. There's a lot of overhead resistance in this area between 33 and 31 roughly. And then of course there's going to be breakout above this 31.50. That's going to be key. We touched above it and then we fell back, so we're going to be watching that. Next after that is going to be up here around 34 and then around 35. In a longer term view, the MACD has crossed and is building. You can see that down here. It's in negative territory, but it's crossed and is building. We had something similar maybe over here back in the end of last year, and then we had something similar all the way back in 2010. So we'll wait and see how long it'll take us to get through that resistance. I don't think we're going back down. I may be wrong. Now let's get over to some questions of the night, because it's going to address that a little bit. The first one is from Gaston Hobbit, and it's silver supply. Brother John, you asked in a previous update for information on silver supplies. Here's what I have noticed. Locally, pawn shops and buy gold and silver are not selling or selling at high premiums. NTM, that's Northwest Territorial Mint. NTM is delaying shipments of already ordered silver by an additional month. Now, Northwest Territorial Mint, they have been known in the past for fairly long delays. They have really good prices. They always have had really good prices in relation to spot, but they've been known for having delays. I don't know if that's because they meant to order or whether they wait to order, but that's just pretty much goes with the territory if you're going to order from them. Now, as far as an additional month, that may be the case. They have had long lag times in other situations where silver's become tight. Third, One Mint is buying 90% silver above spot and paying to ship it to them. Now that's very interesting. The junk has been trading above spot for quite some time. Traditionally, junk trades below spot, so that seems to be tightening up as well. A 90% coin dealer I buy from has told me that wholesalers are wanting $2 per $1 face value above melt. Premiums on 90% silver dollars are increasing, with sellers wanting $8 to $10 each above melt value. Not sure this is a local or national trend, only that it points to tightening supplies, since the law of supply and demand is no longer working when it comes to precious metals. Perhaps we should pay attention to the supply and stop worrying about price. The question is still, when silver finally shines and people try to jump on the bandwagon, will there be any silver to buy at any price? And that's a very good question. As the physical supply tightens, then of course one solution is going to be for them to let the price rise. As I said before, they don't want the price to get too high. They also don't want the price to get too low. They certainly don't want for there to be a disconnect, a clear disconnect between the physical and the paper price. If that were to occur, then that also could trigger a stampede into silver. So it's something they need to manage very carefully. And the next question is actually two questions from Nothing Rhymes with Silver. Brother John F., I truly appreciate the effort you have made to blog and educate others about the potential for silver. I have two loaded questions that I have not seen addressed by your blog. One, I'm a very big Mike Maloney fan, and he believes that silver will go into a bubble, but is nowhere near it right now. In his book, he describes what we need to stop measuring silver in its dollar value, because the dollar is constantly losing value. We should instead measure it in tangible assets like real estate, barrels of oil, bushels of wheat. He believes that once silver has found its true value, paper markets destroyed, we will see many things cheaper in value when measured in silver. In his estimate, the average American house would cost around 500 ounces of silver after the mania phase hits. What are some of the other assets that will be cheapest and give the best return once silver goes through its true bull phase that many are predicting? A very good point. Now, I actually think that 500 ounces of silver is too pessimistic, actually. I think that, for example, if we have 1,000 or 4-digit or multiple 4-digit and housing still compresses, that figure may be closer to 100 ounces of silver to buy a house. But nevertheless, we're always talking about silver being measured in other things. Even when we look at the dollar price, we're also watching the dollar price of other things. But it's absolutely true that you want to keep an idea of the relative value. That's why we did a chart of Apple stock's percentage returns versus silver's percentage returns to show you that silver was nowhere near a bubble when the media was saying that it was in a bubble, whereas Apple was in a bubble and the media was saying nothing about it being a bubble. In fact, I believe myself and just a few others were the only ones at that time saying that Apple was in a bubble. So That's one clear indication of a bubble, is that if you're truly in a bubble, no one's going to be saying you're in a bubble. Number two, I read and listened to a lot of interviews from friends of your blog, and rarely will they mention helium. America is the largest producer of helium, has locked in the price artificially low until 2015. This price was set in the 1960s in order to deplete the excess reserves, but the use in MRI machines and as a supercoolant was not yet known. Is helium a good potential investment? Storing it is much more difficult than precious metals, but it is also seems like a potential way to increase your wealth due to ineffective government price controls. I don't know that much about helium as far as the helium market and the fact that it is subsidized or the price is set artificially low. That wouldn't surprise me. The U.S. government is constantly interfering in markets and causing all kinds of mayhem because of its price interference. Of course, the deal with helium is true with just about everything else. The reason why gold and silver are money rather than many other things is because of that nature that they have, that they can be stored. They're very easily stored. They're fungible. They're divisible. All of the elements that make them money, including store of value. That's why they are money and helium is not money. Now, as far as it being an investment and you'd having to store it, I think you probably, if you're very bullish on it, you probably would want to look into investing in either companies or properties that could produce it. I don't really know enough about it to tell you. So let's get over to the main story of the night, and this is going to be about government cheese and why it's never really in your interest to get involved with that. The first one, this is covered by Jay Snips recently, just a couple days ago. We had a near riot, I don't know if it was a riot, near riot breakout in Detroit. And this is one of these Section 8 riots. I'm going to read some of the story. An event designed to help assist Michigan families with housing expenses turned into a chaotic scene after there was a mad rush to collect Section 8 housing choice vouchers. The incident happened Saturday morning at the Wayne County Family Health Services Center on Eureka Road between Beach Daily and Inkster Roads in Taylor, where thousands of people were waiting to get housing vouchers, many of whom had been waiting outside in the cold since the night before. Reports say the amount of people who showed up looking for assistance heavily outweighed the number of vouchers to be distributed. As the night was fading away, the sun started to shine. The crowd continued to grow as more and more people arrived. According to reports, only 1,000 vouchers were available for distribution. An estimated 3,000 to 4,000 people were in attendance. So the first point, of course, which is always the case if you study any Austrian economics, actually any economics at all, will tell you that there's an infinity of needs and wants, and there's a limited supply. So it's not surprising, although I find it kind of shocking and contradictory, because the socialists will tell us that to each according to his need. But there's always a shortage. There's always a shortage of government cheese and free handouts, and so it's not surprising that this is the type of thing we see. There was a story earlier in the year in 2012 that where the same sort of thing occurred in Columbus, Ohio, and I wanted to play a little bit of that.
10 TV's Ashley Barry joins us now to explain how police say things got so out of hand.
Well, the bishop here says he offered this space to help with the rental application process because of its mere size. As you can see, the parking lot holds hundreds of cars. But Columbus police say when they arrived, not only was this parking lot full, but also folks had illegally parked up and down Sunbury Road.
Vehicles parked on the berm need to move immediately or you will be ticketed.
An abrupt end to what was supposed to be the first step to a new beginning.
Please leave the ground immediately.
Columbus police described it as a chaotic and sometimes forceful morning along Sunbury Road as thousands descended in the parking lot of Mount Hermon Missionary Baptist Church. Officers say the group gathered there to sign up for reduced rent housing at the Heritage apartment complex just off of Agler Road. According to these flyers posted on the leasing office door, 200 housing applications were being offered on a first-come, first-served basis. Thousands showed up for a chance to sign up. Neighbors who live nearby the church.
First, I'd have to say, out a little bit of irony, I don't think I've ever seen so many Muslims show up to a Baptist church before. But the absurdity of what they're doing here, this is my main point. The absurdity of governments having people line up to queue to get a limited number of these vouchers, and these situations often turn out to be violent. Of course, they don't set up a way of queuing in an organized manner, and of course then you're going to have people jumping in line and things like that. The big question is going to be, why these governments that we send so much money to, why can't they do something so simple as to have a lottery for this limited number of vouchers? Now, in other articles where I've read about these same stories, they've said that the vouchers actually aren't even passed out, that these people are really just queuing in line to get on a waiting list. And so that's even more ridiculous and absurd, especially in an age and time where we have a lot of people have smartphones, or there's public libraries with internet access. There's no reason why these agencies couldn't simply have a lottery with the window, the lottery window to be open, say, for example, 7 days, and anybody who wants to get in the list can join that lottery, and then they will run it on a given date and select those, and they can order those and they'll have their list. So none of it makes any sense. Of course, the tinfoil hat among us would probably speculate that the government is doing this on purpose to demean people, degrade them, and also to do this as a test run for when they're going to cut things off and possibly trigger riots. So the whole thing is ridiculous and absurd the way it's run, and there's no excuse for it. And of course, I'm not endorsing public housing Section 8. Of course, the thing, in my opinion, is rife with fraud, as Jay Snips has pointed out, that a lot of the people who use the housing actually operate in the underground economy. Of course, the government discourages marriage because they incentivize illegitimacy. If you have a normal married couple, their incomes are counted, whereas if you had people living together, essentially the same unit, then they don't count that. So the whole thing is one gigantic mess. It is an example of government run amok, and the destruction on the family and the country that is wreaked by these socialists and liberals who think that they can help people by giving things away. Of course, it never works. It never will work because it's against human nature. So that's the sort of thing that you want to avoid. You want to go the opposite direction as quickly as possible. Of course, you want to be as frugal as you possibly can. Live below your means. Sometimes I understand that people can become resentful when they see people lining up. If you'll notice in that video that we showed from Columbus, there were a lot of seemingly new cars. There seemed to be no shortage of people being able to buy new cars, but they can't pay for their housing. So again, you don't want to go in that direction because you don't want to be at the mercy of these people. As soon as they make the decision, of course, they're going to severely cut back these benefits, if not cut them off outright. And then you're going to find yourself being dependent on the government in a situation where government services aren't available. So the best alternative, of course, is to work a job, one or two jobs. Work as much as you can. Work for yourself. Use the extra money that you have to stack physical silver for the inevitable collapse that's coming when all of these benefits of government cheese and all the rest are ultimately cut off when austerity hits the U.S. And we'll talk to you next time.